Hey there, Gabe here. In our first The Theory of Zelda, we talked about Zoras. Today, it will be basically the same thing, Ritos.
And here's Johnny. But this video isn't just a theory, it's also a bit of a history lesson about their evolution and culture.
I feel like we should give a minor spoilers ahead warning here. We will talk mainly about events and people from The Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild here. So if you haven't yet, we highly recommend that you play them and most every other Zelda out there. With that out of the way, let's get into it.
The Rito appeared for the first time in The Wind Waker. Here they are humanoid bird people who mainly work delivering mail between the islands of the Great Sea that covers the old land of Hyrule. As the hero of the winds progresses through his journey, he comes across the spirit of Zora Sage Laruto, who needs a new sage to take her place. A descendant of hers who ends up being Medli, a Rito girl.
Wait. So you're telling me that the bird girl is a descendant of the fish girl?
Well, aren't we all if you think about it? But yeah, I know, everyone was surprised at the time. However, if you paid attention, there was actually a hint of their origin since the very first time you met Medli. The marking of the Zora Sapphire from Ocarina of Time on her outfit, and on Komali's necklace after he stops being a wimp. And as stated before, it's always seemed to make little to no sense their transformations from aquatic to aerial people. So how the hell did that happen?
Well, people usually use as a reason for this change the fact that Ganondorf mentions at some point that there is no fish to catch in the sea. So according to that, there would be no place for the Zoras to inhabit, and no way for them to feed themselves. But the way it is said seems to be about a dream Zelda is having, and if it isn't, I think it may be an exaggeration from his part. What I mean is, he doesn't mean that there are zero fish in the sea, only that they are scarce, to the point that fishing is not viable, or the fish in the Great Sea cannot be consumed by humans.
And there are quite a few things to support this. First of all, Orca, who teaches Link how to use a sword, is an old fisherman, something illustrated by all the shark dentures displayed on his wall.
Well, unless he fought all those sharks by hand, but I doubt he did that, right?
And there are the fishmen, literal fish people who help you, not to mention the Yorks and Octoroks who live in those waters. Even if you do consider them monsters, including the fishmen, instead of real animals, they would still need to eat something. I mean, I highly doubt that the fishmen survive solely on the bait-based diet Link feeds them, and the monsters themselves could very well be a source of food. The point is, there's more than enough evidence to show that there are stuff living down there.
Even if you assume there is absolutely no edible food for a Zora in the Great Sea, it would still be more plausible for them to stay fishy and only find nourishment on land, while still being able to easily traverse from island to island instead of magically sprouting wings and starting to fly.
But isn't that what happened?
Shh, we'll get there. And if you go even further and think the water would somehow be harmful for them, they could still live normal land-dwelling lives like any regular Hylian is doing.
However, there is another not so in-your-face but huge reference about their ancestry that is incredible how often it is overlooked. Koboli, the Rito male sorter, looks like the running man and postman from many other Zelda titles, especially Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. And yes, you could think that it's just a nice reference to those other characters, but in fact, it's stated on his figurine that he comes from a family of postmen, and even an ancestor of his in an age gone by was also a postman. If that doesn't confirm he's somehow related to Hylians, I don't know what does.
On a side note here, you could argue that no other postman we ever saw could be Koboli's ancestor, as the one from Majora's Mask was in a parallel universe. The postman from Twilight Princess and Oracle of Ages live in different timelines around the same period the Wind Waker takes place, and there's one in the Minish Cap, but this game could easily be placed somewhere else in the timeline, making it impossible any ancestry between them. And the only one that could be related to him is the Running Man from Ocarina of Time, which clearly isn't a postman himself. But not only I don't really trust the quote-unquote official timeline presented in the encyclopedia, that wasn't even made by the game's developers, and flat out states that it may be changed in the future if they come up with something better. Also in the Zelda series, characters keep returning, even after countless ages have passed, usually performing the same tasks and often having the same name as their ancestors. So it's not a stretch that some relative of the Running Man became a post officer and eventually that family line reached Koboli.
Now add this with the fact that the Rito looks just like Hylians with wings and beaks attached to them, and seem to have hair not made out of feathers but of, well, hair in their heads, a feature kept up to the time of Breath of the Wild. They even have the Hylian pointy ears when neither Zoras or the future Ritos from Breath of the Wild even have any ears.
So, you know how in Ocarina of Time, Ruto kinda forces a clueless child Link into engagement, and in Breath of the Wild, Mipha loves Link, and players started wondering if it would even be possible for Zora-Hylian relationships to give birth to hybrid children. Well, even though they have quite different biological traits, it most likely is, although maybe a bit rare, as I guess we've never seen one half Zora anywhere. But the Rito proves it is possible, as what is presented in the game points to the Rito being in fact descendants of both Zoras and Hylians. Maybe the ancestors lost the ability to breathe underwater from the Hylian genes.
And what would those Rito ancestors look like? A mammal and a fish amphibian thing wouldn't produce a bird in just a few centuries, right? Well, remember when we said that magically sprouting wings thing? So yeah, it goes into that. The ancestral Rito couldn't even fly and used to use a grappling hook to move around their mountainous homeland. Given their appearance in the Wind Waker and since they don't even have feathers covering their whole body, it seems more likely that at first they look like Hylians with scales covering portions of their bodies, and those scales evolved over time into feathers.
They probably kept the Zoras' longer pointy nose that later transformed into beaks, that, as seen in the Wind Waker, just covers their noses at that point, keeping the mouth still human-like. Zoras also have their large fins on their arms, and when they swim, they seem to propel themselves with them and not with their legs or the weird head tail that not all of them have. Thus, they would need stronger chest muscles in order to use their arms to swim, muscles those which are prerequisite for flying vertebrates as well.
So you see, many elements were already in place for a bird to be made, but in the Wind Waker the Ritos still can fly at a young age. If needed, the younglings use a grappling hook to climb the mountain. In order to fly, they need magic scales given to them by the Dragon Valu for their wings to actually grow, otherwise one could spend their entire life grounded, something the chieftain fears is gonna happen to his son Komali.
We don't know for how long their fiery guardian deity has been around, so there's also the possibility that it was Valu's magical powers that allowed these hybrid people birth to be feasible in the first place. But by the time of Breath of the Wild, such traits are already a permanent part of their natural biology, with children being already winged without the assist of any supernatural being.
And that is where the Paraglider comes into place. I don't know if you noticed, but Link's Paraglider in Breath of the Wild has the Rito tribe symbol on it. When I first played and realized that, it struck me as odd. Why the hell the Rito of all people will have paragliders? Well, that may be an ancient apparatus they used before their wings were fully functional, like the grappling hook. And that also could be just as well used by other species, in particular the flightless green-hooded Link.
Over time, the Breath of the Wild Ritos evolved, convergently to birds, into the more feathery, fully beaked Ritos we see in Breath of the Wild. And if you try to categorize them scientifically,
yes, we're going there.
They are in fact possibly amphibian-mammal hybrids that can fly, who are nowhere near related to birds. They are like the platypus of Hyrule. Furthermore, some people find it odd that both the Zora and Rito exist in Breath of the Wild, but in this way, it would be possible for this new hybrid race to come into existence. Being descendants from the Zoras doesn't mean replacing them.
Yeah, you know, like us humans, we didn't replace the monkeys, well, some of them at least. Both still exist but in different yet similar ways.
Zoras from Ocarina of Time could still be living well closer to the Great Sea's floor after the flood, as they really hadn't many reasons to leave their domain and eventually allowing for both species to coexist in Breath of the Wild after the sea retreated. Breath of the Wild Zoras and Ritos are just very distant cousins.
By the time of Breath of the Wild, they have also grown larger, kinda like pretty much every other race in Hyrule, which made them heavier and lose the ability to actually fly. Many Ritos in the game say that they can only glide forward and depend on updrafts to go higher, and the skill to create such updrafts on his own was what made Revali so distinct among his people.
If you stick this far, here's an extra for you. The Rito share some of their ancient history with the Zora, and as such, the name of the race could have been an homage to Ruto, just like Laruto and Rutella, calling their new race while being separated from the Zoras based on their most famous ancestor. Since they originated shortly afterwards her lifetime, there's a possibility they even used to consider themselves descendants of Ruto, much like with Hylians being descendants of Hylia.
And that's mostly everything you should know about the Rito. We have plans on making similar videos talking about the other races in Hyrule and beyond. So tell us which one is your favorite that you'd like to see next.
If you like this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to our channel. And you can also click here to check our previous gaming review, and here to check the last Theory of Zelda we made, where we talked about the Zora's lifespan.
Well, that about wraps it up.
Are they still born as tadpoles?
Bye.
Do they produce milk?
It's already over.
Did they eat those dragon scales?
Shut up.